Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. This will be my first video out of 10 reviewing the seasons of each IPL franchise. I'll be starting off with the team that won yesterday's game, and that'll be RCB. So you could say there was a bit of luck involved for them to qualify at the end, but I wouldn't entirely call it luck because it was in Delhi's hands to qualify instead of them had they won their game in hand. They couldn't do that, and I'll be disappointed that they couldn't. I'll get to Delhi when I review their season, but more than what you could say, it was a bit of luck in the end, but RCB were on 16 points, so I don't think, even if they didn't qualify, I don't think they would have had a bad season as such. More than their wins, some of their losses were by big margins, and that's what jeopardized their chances. And because of that, they couldn't compete with the Capitals' net run rate and relied on them losing that game. And so that's the reason why I'm saying, since the Capitals lost that game, you could consider it as part of RCB's story this season, trying to progress to the final and ultimately win the competition. I think they're in pole position to progress to the final because I think they are kind of the side with the advantage going into tomorrow's game. But I did think Delhi would beat Mumbai, so let's see how that goes tomorrow. And yeah, that's the reason why even if RCB hadn't qualified for this for the playoffs this season, I don't think they would have had a bad season as such. And regarding their batting, the main three everyone was focusing on was Kohli, Maxwell, and Duplessis. Yes, Duplessis has scored above 400 runs this season, but you could say the domestic core has actually overall outperformed these three, especially in kind of crucial situations. And Dinesh Karthik, Rajat Patidar, Shahbaz Ahmed, especially at the start of the season, and Mahipal Lomro at times, have probably shone when the team needed them most. Especially Dinesh Karthik scored 324 runs when batting at number 6 or 7 and is rightfully part of the squad to face South Africa. And yeah, he's averaged 64, struck 187. He's been brilliant for them. He's done a combination of, at times, providing the finishing touches to their innings or really rescuing the team from tough situations, whether it's setting a score or chasing a score. And especially at the start of the season, him and Shahbaz Ahmed, on a few occasions, they dug RCB out of trouble. And that's the reason why I'm saying their domestic Indian core has outshone their main three frontline batsmen. And that would be something they'll be really happy with. And yeah, I think that they are in pole position to win tomorrow's game. And I think they'll be really happy that for two things. One, their Indian batting core has done really well. And two, I did not expect Hasaranga to have this good of a season. I mean, when they bought him for 10.75 crores, 4 crores more than Yuzvendra Chahal, I thought that they may have regretted that decision. I think I said in my preview that if you're combining the two wrist spinners that they have in Hasaranga and Karan Sharma, who hasn't played a game so far this season, then I said that they wouldn't even be 40% of a Yuzvendra Chahal. Now, if you're comparing Hasaranga season and Chahal's, then they're actually quite similar. And in terms of economy rate and bowling average, Hasaranga actually has slightly better, a slightly better economy rate and a bowling average than Chahal does, although they are fairly similar. Chahal has taken 26 wickets in 15 games, and Hasaranga has taken, I think, 25 in 15 games. The one thing RCB maybe would have wanted to see more of from Hasaranga, since they paid that extra 4 crores more, to offer that balance in the side in terms of being able to bat as well. He hasn't had too many opportunities, but at the same time, when he has batted, he hasn't really shown too much. So I think for future seasons, something from his side will be that maybe to also provide the goods batting at that number 7 spot as well. But I think overall it's been a very good season from him. Even yesterday, combined with his bowling, I think he saved 14 runs as well, which proved to be vital in the outcome of the game. So it's been an outstanding season for Hasaranga. I honestly didn't expect him to be this good, and he's basically equaled Chahal's numbers and bettered those numbers in some aspects. So we're really well done to him. And in the seam bowling, this was where I thought RCB, along with the fact that they didn't have Chahal this year, I thought with the seam bowling, things looked quite a bit precarious because Hazelwood and Harsha Patel have had to really take responsibility in the seam bowling unit Because apart from that, you've got Mohammad Siraj, Siddharth Kaul and Akashdeep who all go for runs. None of those three, I mean, Siddharth Kaul's only played one game, and Siraj and Akashdeep didn't have the greatest of times when they were playing. Siraj played in the latest game again, but he hasn't had his greatest of seasons. And so that's the reason why I thought there was a lot of responsibility on those who have done very well. Hazelwood's, I think, 18 wickets in 11 games, and even his economy rate is kind of, it's been lifted up by the fact that he's had one or two bad games, pretty much one bad game, and that was when he conceded 64 runs in 4 overs, I think, a few games ago. And Harsha Patel has been very good, I think, overall. Especially in the back end of the season, I think he's been quite effective. 19 wickets in 14 games, going at less than 8 an over, has been good from both these two. And they've had to be good because, as I said, relying on the other three to keep the runs down, and also especially with the death bowling as well, you wouldn't think you'd be able to rely on that for the other three. So it's been vital that those two have had good seasons, and they've luckily have done so. And Glenn Maxwell as well. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning him is because, yes, with the bat, it hasn't been as good of a season as, let's say, last year. But something that they've also factored in is he, at times, has been the second spinner. I think him and Shahbaz Ahmed have shared the quota of overs. And especially in the latter half of the season, he has been used more so of kind of he's been bowled more. And he's gone at just above 7 runs per over. Taken 6 wickets, yes, but across 21 overs, he's gone at just about 7 runs per over. That too has scored 277 runs at a strike rate of 168. So if you're combining those two as an overall package, he has still had quite a good season. I think he would have wanted more runs with the bat, but since he has offered those runs with the balls, or kind of those overs with the ball as well, and plus if you average 27 and strike at 168, then you will get kind of, when you do get some decent scores, and even if you get like 20s or 30s, it will still help the team. So I don't exactly think he's had a bad season as such if you consider the overall package. Fatu Basi, as I've said, probably not the season that the seasons that he had with CSK, especially the season that he had last year, but still 443 runs. He has still been good, I think, and I think the problem with RCB, yes, now I'm going to get to the problems, is that, or something that we want to improve on, is that for a large part of this season, they didn't really have consistent contributions in the top 3. Du Plessis hasn't been at his most consistent this year, despite the fact that he has scored above 400 runs. Anuj Rad played one good innings, I think, of 66, but even then, I've said before that he had to chase, just about 160, and for quite a bit of that, he was going at less than the required run rate, and then he hit a few boundaries to get himself kind of above the required run rate, and then didn't give this kind of quick starts at the start, kind of at the first half of the season when he was playing. And that's the reason why in the first half of the season, RCB's power play just went nowhere, you could say. Virat Kohli also didn't have his greatest of seasons. In fact, really, he's averaged 24 and struck at 117. So it's actually not good at all, you could say. Yes, he has scored a few runs in the latter. He has scored. He has played a few decent knocks. I'd say the 240 odds at the start of the season were good, and the 73. But apart from that, he hasn't really been able to get into the runs too much. And when he has scored runs, they have been at quite a low strike rate. And even yesterday, he kind of played a stylishly scratchy 25. And yes, Rajat Patidar, I actually think, has been, when he has been going well, he's been shielding, or rather, since Kohli does slow down from over 7 to 15, I think Patidar is actually, with him going hard during that phase, I actually think it's allowed Kohli to do that. But I think, for example, in a situation like yesterday, it was vital that that kind of a thing did happen, because Kohli was on 25 of 24 when he got out, and had there not been that impetus from Rajat Patidar, then they wouldn't have got to that 70 odd in 9 overs mark. So not the greatest season from Virat Kohli, and I think he obviously would want to improve kind of on that. And regarding he scored 73. Do I think it's going to be this kind of a flip of a switch? I honestly don't, because at this point, I think this whole clamour on Kohli, like I've said before, started way too early, simply because he wasn't scoring 100. And I think in the last 2 months or so is when you could say, yes, clamour's not really great for any player when things aren't going well for them. But at the same time, I think it would have been more understandable if the clamour started at about now. But at the same time, I think more than the fact kind of thinking he just isn't scoring runs. I think before, even I kind of thought that he wasn't really... his game was still in order, but he wasn't scoring runs. But now, look, there's no way for the viewer to know the to see the intricacies of what is actually going on. I think that maybe there is something that we don't know about. Maybe there is something in his game, for example. And considering how he's been going in, especially the last 2 months, then maybe there is. I mean, we don't know that. And that's the reason why I think, well, he scored that 73. Yeah, I was happy for him. But I'm saying that, is this going to be a flip of a switch? I don't think it is. But I think there's something more to this. And I think it showed where predictably he scored a stylistically scratchy 25, which I wasn't exactly surprised that he scored. So I think, look, of course for him, if he gets some scores, there'll be some momentum. And yes, that is very good. But at the same time, I think, has it solved the problem that I don't think anyone of kind of the watching world would know? Then it doesn't. And I think those around him would have to really look into it if it's something regarding his game and certain right. I'm not really in pole position to talk about that because I don't really have too much technical regarding batting technique. I don't really have too much knowledge on that. But I'm sure like the people around him would know, and they'll be the ones who have to correct him if there is something. Because I don't think there's just a case of something which I thought before, but I don't think from the last 2 months, I don't think there's a case where you could just say there's nothing wrong with his batting, because we don't know whether there is or there isn't. And yeah, despite the fact that the top or the main three probably weren't as influential as they would have wanted to be, and a lot of the time, their Indian domestic core really helped them out. And yeah, I think that, look, for RCB, I don't really think they would have had a bad season even if they didn't qualify. I think with the losses that they got, it was probably a bit of a seesaw. When they won, they were quite good, and especially when they beat SRH by I think 67 runs. You didn't think it would be this difficult for them to qualify for the playoffs. And look, Punjab Kings in the last few seasons have done a kind of damage to RCB whenever they've played against them, and they demolished them in that game, which probably made their that jeopardized their chances. After that defeat, I think their net run rate was minus -0.323, and that's the reason that's kind of effectively what put their net run rate between them and the Delhi Capitals kind of quite far apart. And it was irrelevant, I thought, whether they still had to win the game against the Gujarat Titans, but I still thought that Delhi would beat Mumbai. They didn't do that, and they've got a lifeline. And I think if RCB do go all the way this season, I think this will be quite something. I think in the end, an uncapped batsman playing one of the best knocks I've ever seen in an IPL knockout game. I think they could take some confidence from that going into the next game. And yeah, I actually personally think they are fair favourites to beat the Rajasthan Royals tomorrow. I think if you're looking at overall what's kind of how both those teams have been going, I think the Rajasthan Royals, before I kind of said that I talked about their lack of batting depth and also their bowling misfiring. I think their bowling is probably the best place to fire as it is now. I think with the 5 bowlers that they've got in this 11 right now, they are kind of in pole position to get the job done. And also the batting, I don't actually think it's as bad as I once thought it was. I think they have been bailed out quite a bit by kind of R. Ashwin promotions. And yeah, I think in the end, if you're looking at what he's done, he's averaged 30 and struck at 146.82, batting on and off. He's kind of I think he's batted 11 times and he's got 5 not outs, but he has done the job for his side as well as doing what he does with the ball. So it will be a great game tomorrow. I personally think RCB are in pole position to win it. I think the fact that their local batsmen are in such good form bodes well for them tomorrow, and also against the Gujarat Titans if they win that game, but let's see how that goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, please share this video with your friends, and remember, this is my opinion, what's yours?